All right, let's dive in. Today, it looks like we're exploring the world of autism and food, huh?
Seems like it.
Yeah, you've provided a pretty diverse collection of sources, like
Mm.
everything from, well, like blog posts, articles about different, symptoms and stuff, and then also a lot focusing specifically on women.
It really seems like you're trying to get like a really well-rounded picture of this whole intersection of autism and food.
Yeah,
Especially, some of the unique challenges that autistic women face.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
That's a really interesting area to kind of dig into.
So let's
Yeah, yeah.
let's start with
Yeah.
you sent this blog post called "Autism and Food Sensitivity."
Okay.
And it really kind of highlights how food can become
Uh-huh.
like almost this central focus for some autistic individuals,
Yeah.
almost to the point of obsession.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting how that obsession can kind of manifest in different ways,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the ways that...
Well, I think the blog post talks about like restrictive eating,
Right.
like really sticking to a small number of safe foods.
Yeah.
And I think if you think about like sensory sensitivities, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, the texture of certain foods, the smell of certain foods, even the sound of certain foods
Right.
can be really overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
And so limiting those choices can be a way to kind of manage that sensory input.
It's almost like creating this like controlled environment
Right.
in a world that can feel very unpredictable.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, this need for control often
Yeah.
also kind of ties into some of the challenges that some autistic individuals face with executive function.
Right.
Thinking about planning meals,
Yeah.
making a grocery list,
Right.
even deciding what to eat. Like
Yeah.
these everyday tasks can be, really difficult.
Yeah.
And so sticking to kind of those familiar foods can be a way to sort of simplify those decisions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The post also talks about the anxiety
Yes.
that some people on the spectrum experience around food,
Yeah.
like, running out of a preferred food or
Yeah.
being pressured to try something new.
I think about like, the rituals that a lot of autistic individuals develop around meal times.
Right.
Always using the same plate or arranging the food in a specific way.
Uh-huh.
It's all about, predictability and routine.
Yeah.
And when those routines are disrupted, it can be really unsettling and even, triggering anxiety.
So it's much more than just like, oh, I'm a picky eater.
Right.
It really highlights
It's deeper than that.
the deeper neurological factors at play.
Absolutely. And I think this is where
Right.
those articles that you sent about sensory sensitivities in autistic women come in, like unraveling the mystery of sensitivities in autistic women.
Yeah.
Autistic women, food sensitivities and intolerances.
Right.
Like those really kind of delve into how the autistic brain
Yeah.
processes sensory information differently.
Yeah. It's not just
Yeah.
a dislike of certain tastes or textures.
Yeah.
It's like this heightened intensity of those sensations.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember reading about how some autistic individuals describe
Right.
certain textures as feeling painful, which as a neurotypical person, I can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, it's hard to even fathom that, right?
Yeah.
But, and also, too, it's important to remember that, like,
Yep.
sensory sensitivity isn't limited to just, taste and texture.
Right.
Think about, like, the lighting in a grocery store or the background music in a restaurant or even the scent of someone's perfume,
Right.
Like, these everyday sensory experiences can be, completely overwhelming. Yeah.
For someone on the spectrum.
It's fascinating to think about how differently we all experience the world,
Yeah.
And you've also included material on like a range of other, topics related to autism, like synesthesia and religious trauma syndrome.
Yeah.
And then even some articles about like justice sensitivity, which caught my eye.
It's interesting that you picked up on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, that really does suggest that you're recognizing like the diversity of the autistic experience, like
Yeah.
going beyond
Totally.
sort of food sensitivities.
Yes. Like what exactly is
Yeah.
justice sensitivity?
Yeah. So
It's not a term that I'm super familiar with.
So imagine having this like really heightened awareness of
Okay.
fairness and justice and reacting really, really strongly to
Yeah.
anything that you perceive as unjust.
Okay.
So this isn't like a clinical diagnosis or anything.
Right. But it's something that a lot of autistic individuals like really resonate with. They might
Yeah.
feel really deep empathy for victims of injustice
Okay.
or become like really passionate advocates for social change.
That actually, I mean, if you think about,
Yeah.
how sensitive um,
Mhm.
a lot of autistic individuals are to sensory input,
Yeah.
maybe that sensitivity extends to the like
Oh,
social and ethical realm too.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like this built-in moral compass
Yeah.
that's always on high alert, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept and one that we
Uh,
should definitely explore further.
yeah.
But I also noticed that you included quite a few articles specifically about
Yes.
autism in women.
Yes. Like articles like What Women with Autism Want You to Know
Uh-huh.
and The Hidden Truth Revealed, uncovering the unique challenges of women on the spectrum.
That's a great one.
Those really stood out to me.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot that we still need to understand about how autism presents differently in women.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, for a long time,
Mhm.
autism was seen through this very male-centric lens.
Right.
And that led to, a lot of women being misdiagnosed or diagnosed much later in life.
Uh-huh.
And these sources
Yeah.
really highlight those unique challenges and
Wow.
why it's so crucial to understand the female perspective.
And it makes you wonder, how does this tie back into,
Yeah, that's a great question.
our discussion about
Yep.
food and
Uh-huh.
sensory sensitivities?
Yeah, is there a connection?
Yeah, is there
That's what
a through line?
we're gonna delve into as we
Yeah.
continue this deep dive.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, all these seemingly separate things, like the food sensitivities and then the justice sensitivity and then the unique experiences of women on the spectrum.
It's like they might actually all be kind of connected.
That's what I'm finding so intriguing about this whole
Yeah.
deep dive. It's like we're piecing together this puzzle,
Yeah.
and revealing this
Totally.
nuanced understanding of autism.
Think about those articles on women and autism.
Right.
Like they talk about how women on the spectrum
Uh-huh.
often feel this pressure to kind of mask their true selves.
Yeah.
To fit in with neurotypical expectations.
Right. And that masking can be
Yeah.
exhausting.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine constantly having to monitor your behavior and suppress your natural instincts.
Right.
Just to
navigate social situations.
navigate those social situations.
It's no wonder that so many autistic women experience
Yeah,
anxiety and burnout.
exactly. Yeah.
Now connect that to what we were talking about with the justice sensitivity,
Uh.
that heightened awareness of fairness and injustice.
Okay. Like, could it be
Yeah.
that masking is, in part, a response to that sensitivity?
Oh, interesting. So you're saying that by masking their autistic traits,
Yeah.
women might be trying to avoid situations that could trigger their sense of injustice.
Possibly.
Or maybe they're trying to prevent others from treating them unfairly
Yeah.
because they're different.
I mean, think about it. If you're constantly attuned to injustice,
Right.
even subtle forms of it,
Yeah.
masking could be a way to kind of
Okay.
minimize potential conflict or criticism.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the importance of, creating a more inclusive and accepting society.
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
autistic individuals,
Especially women.
especially women,
Right.
don't feel pressured to mask who they are.
Right. We need to move away from this idea of normal and embrace,
Yes.
the diversity of human experience.
It's the diversity.
Including neurodiversity.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of diverse experiences,
Yeah.
we haven't touched much on synesthesia yet,
Oh, yeah.
which you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really curious to learn more about it.
So synesthesia is a fascinating phenomenon.
Okay.
It's where the stimulation of one sense triggers an experience in another sense.
Okay.
So, for example, someone might hear music and see colors,
Wow.
or taste a word and feel a texture.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I've always been so
Wow.
intrigued by synesthesia.
Yeah.
What's the connection to autism?
Well, studies have shown that there's a
Okay.
higher prevalence of synesthesia
Uh-huh.
among autistic individuals.
Interesting.
It's not fully understood why,
Yeah.
but one theory is that it's related to the way that the autistic brain processes sensory information.
So instead of experiencing the senses in like isolation,
Yeah.
they're kind of intertwined.
Right. Exactly.
And it creates this like unique way of perceiving the world.
Yeah, and it really challenges our assumptions about
Right.
what constitutes like normal perception, you know? Like,
Yeah.
what if the way that most of us experience the world is just one version of reality?
Okay.
And there are all these other ways of
Right.
perceiving and understanding things that
Yeah.
we're just like not attuned to.
It's a humbling thought.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if there are like benefits to experiencing the world through a
Oh, I think
synesthetic lens.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the potential for like enhanced creativity and a richer inner world.
Right. Like imagine
Yeah.
the artistic possibilities.
Yeah, seeing music as colors or tasting words as textures.
It's almost like having this extra layer of perception.
Exactly.
This added dimension to reality.
It underscores the importance of like really listening to and learning from autistic individuals.
Yeah.
You know, they offer these really valuable insights into like the human mind and the nature of reality itself.
This deep dive is like really shifting my perspective on autism. You know, it's so much more complex and nuanced than I ever realized.
And we haven't even touched on religious trauma syndrome yet.
You're right. You included several sources.
Yeah.
On that topic, can you explain what religious trauma syndrome is?
So religious trauma syndrome refers to like the psychological distress that can arise from leaving or questioning a like rigid or authoritarian religious system.
Right.
And it can manifest as anxiety, depression, even PTSD.
And I'm guessing this kind of ties back into the autistic experience. Because of that heightened sense of justice and fairness.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine being autistic and growing up in a religious environment that emphasizes like strict obedience, conformity, and a very black and white view of morality.
Right.
Like it can create intense internal conflict for someone who naturally questions rules and seeks fairness.
It's like being caught between rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're told to follow the rules without question.
Right.
But your sense of justice tells you something isn't right.
Exactly. And that conflict can be like incredibly damaging to someone's like sense of self-worth and mental well-being, you know?
Yeah.
It's so crucial to create spaces where autistic individuals, especially those who have experienced religious trauma, feel safe to explore their beliefs and values without judgment.
And that kind of brings us back to, the importance of creating a more inclusive and understanding society.
Yeah, it's not about like erasing differences, but it's about like honoring and respecting the diversity. The diversity of human experience.
Right. And I think we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
I know.
But it feels like we're just scratching the surface.
There's always more to explore and learn. Yeah. And that's what makes this work so rewarding.
It's fascinating how, we started this deep dive, like focused on food, but we've like expanded into these broader themes of perception, social justice, and the unique challenges faced by women on the spectrum.
It speaks to your curiosity and your willingness to like really delve deeper into these complex topics.
I appreciate that.
And that's exactly what we aim to do here on the deep dive.
I love it. Before we wrap up, is there anything else from your analysis of these sources you think is important for our listener to understand?
I think one theme that emerged from several of the sources, especially autistic women, the power of self-advocacy and support networks is the importance of self-advocacy for autistic individuals, particularly women.
That's so crucial because for so long, autistic women have been silenced or misdiagnosed.
Right.
Their voices unheard.
But now more and more women on the spectrum are speaking out, sharing their experiences.
Yes.
And advocating for their needs.
Right. And it's incredibly empowering.
It is.
Not just for themselves, but for the entire autistic community.
Absolutely.
By sharing their stories, they're challenging stereotypes.
Yes.
Raising awareness. And demanding to be seen and understood.
It's like they're reclaiming their narratives, you know?
Rewriting the script.
Rewriting the scripts.
That's been imposed on them.
That's been imposed on them.
Exactly.
And it's changing the conversation around autism.
Yes.
You know, we're moving away from this like deficit-based model where autism is seen as something to be like fixed or cured, and toward a more neurodiversity affirming approach that celebrates the unique strengths and perspectives of autistic individuals.
And that shift in perspective is long overdue.
It is.
It's about creating a world where everyone, regardless of their neurology, can thrive and reach their full potential.
Beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's the perfect note to kind of transition into our final thoughts for this deep dive.
Yeah, it really is amazing how we started with like just food, but then went on this like multifaceted exploration of autism.
It is. It just shows how interconnected everything is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up, what stands out to you as like the most significant takeaway?
You know, I think the most important thing to remember is that autism is not a monolith.
Right.
You know, every autistic person is unique, and their experiences with food, sensories, sensitivities, social interactions, even, you know, their understanding of justice.
Right.
It's all going to vary.
Yeah, that's a powerful reminder because we've explored like so many different facets of autism today, you know, from sensory overload and the need for routine to synesthesia and religious trauma syndrome.
And through it all, we've seen how like these seemingly like completely separate pieces actually fit together, you know?
We started by like examining that, you know, intense relationship that some autistic individuals have with food and how that relates to like sensory sensitivities and executive function challenges.
We then explored, you know, the concept of justice sensitivity and how that might play a role in social interactions, even masking, especially for women on the spectrum.
Right. We even like took that detour into the world of synesthesia.
Oh, yeah.
Where senses intertwine.
That was fun.
Yeah, no, I love synesthesia. I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
And then we even confronted that difficult topic of religious trauma syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, recognizing the challenges faced by autistic individuals who are navigating these rigid belief systems.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that.
So if our listener takes away just one thing from this deep dive, what would you want it to be?
I would want them to understand that autism is not like a deficit or a disorder to be fixed. It's a different way of being, a different way of experiencing the world with its own, you know, unique strengths, challenges, and perspectives.
It's about embracing neurodiversity and recognizing, you know, the value that different minds bring to our society.
That's like put.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been a journey of discovery for me.
Good. I'm glad.
And I hope it's been the same for our listener.
I believe it has. You know, you've demonstrated such a genuine curiosity and willingness to engage with these complex topics.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And that's what makes these deep dives so rewarding.
Yeah, I love doing these with you.
Me too.
So thank you for guiding us through this fascinating exploration.
It's been my pleasure. And to our listener, we encourage you to continue exploring this topic.
Yes.
You know, read more. Listen to autistic voices.
Yeah.
And challenge your own assumptions about what it means to be autistic.
I love that.
You know?
Knowledge is power. And understanding autism is the first step toward creating a more inclusive and compassionate world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you so